and welcome to today's episode of LinkedIn with Louise. Today, we're going to be talking all about SEO with Ben Roberts. And some of you are going, what do you mean SEO, Louise? What is that? And Ben's going to explain all. And others of you know all about that, and you're going to find real value in this episode as well. So, Ben, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Absolute pleasure. I really hope I can give value to both of those sets of people.
Oh, you definitely will. So Ben and I are in a group together online, and we got talking during a networking event online, because we're all online these days. And I thought that what he was saying to me was so interesting that I thought, got to get this guy on the podcast to share this with my audience. So Ben, before we dive into talking about all things SEO and websites and all that good stuff, can you just give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and your business and who it is that you work with?
Yeah, sure. So obviously Ben Roberts, but it's always Ben M. Roberts online because there are just far too many people called Ben Roberts in the world. So I'll always curse my parents for giving me such a generic name. And the company's BMR Marketing. So it's recently really focused it down on SEO using owned and earned marketing. So looking at basically how do we grow people's web presence and their online rankings and their online sort of search potential using these things called owned and earned marketing. So yeah, it's BMR Marketing and Ben M. Roberts. It's really important. And M does not stand for marketing, as people have asked a few times.
But what does it stand for? We need to know.
Oh, it's just Michael. I mean, again, another generic name that my parents gave me. So that's another thing I'll have to hold against them.
So Ben, I don't know if you have kids, but when you do have kids, you're going to have to give them like very extravagant, elaborate names.
Yeah, I'm not feeling sort of the Gwyneth Paltrow, like name my kids after like fruits and vegetables, or there's that guy who's named his kid Moon Unit. I don't think I'm going to go quite that extravagant, but we'll find something else, I'm sure.
Something that helps them stand out online. Well, or maybe not. Who knows? Anyway,
who knows?
We are digressing already. So who do you work with, Ben, then? Who hires you? Do you work with corporates, individuals? Who's your target audience normally?
Yeah, so it's mostly SMEs and then sort of solopreneurs as well. But it's mostly SMEs, particularly more the medium-sized businesses, seem to feel that they understand SEO a little bit better. But basically, anyone from a localized trade up to anyone that works in a specific area, so either works with a specific industries, so a niche down to a specific industry, or a niche in a specific location. Those are two areas that work particularly well because for, say, a tradesperson, what we can do is we look at hyperlocal SEO activities so that you rank in areas of any city or town or county that you work in because, for example, you don't want to be found for plumbers in England. That's probably not going to win you actually that much business. But if you wanted to but you narrow it down, like plumbers in London still wouldn't actually probably win you much business. But then if you wanted to go for plumbers in a specific area of London, such as, I don't know, it could be any area in Tottenham, you're more likely to win business. Whereas again, for other businesses, so I've worked with a data protection company, and again, they've done some localized where they are regional, but then they've also done we also work on some specific industry stuff. So targeting the sports sectors, the medical sectors, because they have a lot of personalized data. So that's who we work with, is people that want to rank in locations or within specific industries.
Brilliant. So for someone who's listening who hasn't really thought about this yet, and then you'd be going, what? Why would they not have thought about this? But why does somebody, what does ranking mean? Are you talking about when I type your name into Google and where you appear in the Google search, or is it more than that?
So it's that and a lot more. So a term that is often used in SEO, so obviously search engine optimization, straight away, it's brilliant. You start off with an acronym and people go, what's this acronym? And then there's loads of other little acronyms. But when people mention rankings, there'd be a term that you'll hear often used is called a SERP, S-E-R-P.
Okay.
And this is your search engine results pages. And in layman's terms, is when you type in your query into Google, you get your sort of 10 results that come back. That's your search engine results page.
Okay, I did not know that even, Ben.
Yeah, hopefully this is what it's all about, isn't it? It's education. Hopefully this is the value.
Excellent.
So, and ultimately, what the aim then is for your website to come in that page one in that SERP for any given term. Now, the biggest problem that people have that I often find is they come to me and say, then I've searched for my company, I've searched for my services, I've searched for businesses like plumbing companies in Bristol, and I don't come up.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, let's have a look at your website. And the problem is they don't actually mention a lot of these things on their websites, or they're only mentioned once.
Yes.
And the problem with only mentioning it once is Google isn't actually a mind reader. Despite you thinking it knows what you want, it isn't actually a mind reader. If you don't mention these things on your profiles, you don't show up. And again, the same thing with your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profiles rank in Google. But if you don't mention certain things in there, they're not going to show. Because I've seen people, when you look for, so I work with a data protection expert, and they're based in a specific location, and that's part of his LinkedIn header. So funny enough, his LinkedIn shows up as one of the top search results on that. And again, all these different things feed into what Google deems as the most relevant, because Google wants to give you, the searcher, the best possible results. If you don't mention this stuff on your website or your LinkedIn profiles or whatever, you're not going to show up in these SERPs.
So this is interesting to me as someone who I've spoken at conferences about LinkedIn, and this is where the whole podcast booking really came from. You and I were talking about a speaker page on your website, and I don't have one.
Yeah.
So how, if someone's looking for someone to come to a conference to speak about LinkedIn, they aren't going to find me because I haven't actually told people that this is something I do.
Yeah, and it's one of those interesting things is I can't lie to you and say that SEO is going to make or break your business, because there are a huge number of ways that people would find you to speak at your conference. I mean, a huge one is just people seeing you. We talked about this as well, is people seeing you speak and they go, oh, I like that person, I want them to speak at my event. Or there's also recommendations, but a recommendation is what feeds into what we talked about as well, where if you have a speaker page on your website, which is almost, again, it can be a landing page where actually you just send people to, or you're just as built it to make sure it ranks in Google, or it can be part of your entire website, is you'll make sure you have owned and earned content on there, owned and earned marketing. So owned.
Let's break that down. So let's talk about owned marketing first. What is that?
Perfect. So own marketing is the stuff that you say you create. So this could be the videos of you speaking. This is the what you say about what you do, the way in which you approach your speaking. Say, oh, I do this. Do you have a download? This is the stuff that you have complete control over. The owned is what you control and the stuff that you create yourself. Then on the flip side of that is earned. And the earned is where you build that trust and credibility, because quite frankly, anyone can say anything online. And that's, it is, some of it is amazing. Some of it you're like, really? But actually, where is the evidence of that? And now, again, that's when you start adding testimonials of events that you've spoken at. You start adding in links to other websites so you can show that, oh, I've spoken here, here, and here. Because sometimes someone hears you speak at a conference and they go, oh, I think I want that person there. Oh, but let's have a look. Let's see if I can check them out. They go on their website and say, oh, look, this person has done a lot of speaking. They've got experience, because my event might not be the same as this conference that I've just heard them spoke at. So maybe I want to know a little bit more about them. And again, how do we convey our message? Then how do we prove that as well? So do we have the reviews on there? Do we have links? Do we have write-ups where people at these conferences, there are some amazing people that do write-ups about what you've talked about. Can you feature those?
Like people in the audience who do those, isn't there?
Absolutely. And that's really good for you as well, because it's for you, you're building your connections by featuring their work on your website. But for other people who view your page, you're building trust and credibility, because people can then see, and you're adding fresh content to your website, which means this isn't a page that's just been left static for 2 years, because the longer it's left not updated, Google is less likely to show that as a top result. And you go, what? That content's still exactly relevant. But Google doesn't know that. Now, if you search for things, freshness is a metric by which Google will show you results pages, because in all likelihood is something that was published 5 years ago is less likely to be relevant than something published 5 days ago.
Okay,
so this is why you need to start thinking about updating these pages or finding ways of updating them through earned content. So,
sorry, Ben, slow down a second.
Sorry, loads of information, isn't there?
Yes, I have a lot of questions. I want to come back to reviews and talk to you about the different places you can get reviews. But this freshness idea, so are you saying that if I have a blog post about here's how to write your LinkedIn profile and it's 2 years old, if I go back in and update it and add in some extra content now, it's seen as fresher and therefore more relevant?
Yes, absolutely. Because this will link into the reviews bit as well. Is a review that's 2 years old, would you deem that as still relevant if you're looking at a company to find out what they're like?
No, because there could have been a lot of changes in 2 years.
Exactly. And that goes exactly the same thing with the LinkedIn. Potentially, it may be exactly the same. Potentially, there may have been nothing that changes, but actually, in all likelihood, there will have been things that changes. So those little tweaks then signal, actually, look, this content is being updated. So it starts showing a fresh factor. It shows, oh, look, this content is likely to be a lot more relevant than it was 5 years ago.
So going back to reviews, I mean, when I work with clients, especially the people that I work with, helping them up to basically we rewrite their LinkedIn profiles. And one of the things I always recommend to them is that they try and get as many recommendations from people as possible, because most people either have one or less recommendations on their profile, but a lot of people have recommendations that they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and I know they've worked with clients since then. So I really encourage them to reach out and ask people to recommend them. So that's one place you can get recommendations. Another place would be on the Google My Business page, and then I've heard about, I don't use these, but Trustpilot and other things. So do you have like a top 5 list of places you should try and get recommendations from people on?
Oof. Now that's a bit of a tough one. I think a lot of this depends on industry.
Yes.
So if you are a business professional, then LinkedIn is a really potential. So you actively get a lot of your clients, or you're seeking a lot of your clients through LinkedIn, then LinkedIn should be your priority.
Yes.
If you're potentially a tradesperson working in a local area, you should focus on some more specific industry-based reviews, in my opinion. Now, Trustpilot, FIFO, these websites.
These are things that if you don't work in these areas, you have no idea even exist. So it's Trustpilot, there's FIFO.
Yeah, so they're probably two of the big ones particularly. And these are what we call third-party review sites.
Okay.
So these are where the reviews are hosted by someone else. Okay. So third-party review sites include sort of Trusted Traders, FIFO, Trustpilot, those ones where they're Yale.com, anywhere where reviews are managed and hosted by someone else. So it's not you as a company holding these reviews.
So it could be like, for example, if you're like locally, if we're looking for, so this is how it works in our house. If we're looking for someone to come out and fix the dishwasher.
Yeah.
The first place I generally go is ask my local Facebook network, to be honest.
Yep.
Can you recommend somebody? And then I know that there's like that next door thing.
Yep. A prime example. Yep.
But I can never log into that. I've heard other people say it's like Fort Knox trying to log back into your account.
I know. I get loads of emails from that as well, with people updating and asking questions.
Yes.
And you have to think about where your customers are ultimately going to be searching. Now, so third-party reviews are on other things like the Nextdoor, on any website that you don't own. First-party reviews are ones that you could have on your own site.
Okay.
So what you can do, there are links that you can embed the Trustpilot. So if you use Trustpilot to gather and manage your reviews, what you can do is there are widgets and there are code snippets that you can embed into your website.
Yes.
So I know it starts sounding a little bit more technical now.
Yeah. We're going to stay like as simple as possible.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah. So, but basically you can embed those reviews through a little bit of code that then shows those web